We're getting into like little details of the difference between scoring and not scoring. This first round is getting you ready to fight. Wrestling is like life. Your life is constantly being challenged, and you've got to find new ways to be creative and develop and mature. 3 minutes, go. Short offense scores.
The biggest thing with wrestling that can teach you about life is you lose all the time.
In late April of 24 last year, I was heading down to a 6:21 workout. On this particular morning, at around 5:55 in the morning, I just remember changing lanes, and that's, quite frankly, the last thing I remember probably for about 4 or 5 days.
It was 7:15 in the morning when I got the call. And obviously it's a call you never want to get.
At first I just heard that we had a male patient that was in a motor vehicle collision that had a femur fracture. And then some phone calls started to come in that, hey, it's the wrestling coach.
The nurse had just told me that obviously it was an accident. It wasn't life-threatening, but it was a pretty serious accident, and he was in pretty bad shape.
We live in Portland. Jake called, I think it was about 5 a.m. my time. I just answered and was like, what's wrong?
It's that feeling of, oh boy, okay, we have a lot to do, and fixing this is not going to be just a simple surgery. He had a patella fracture, which is his kneecap, that was broken into lots of small pieces. He had an injury to his meniscus. He had a fracture to his proximal tibia, which is the bone right below the knee, and fractures to his distal femur, which is the bone right above the knee. And then he had a hip fracture.
Dr. Collins popped her head in and said, hey, I've got this patient with a sort of devastating lower extremity injury, and I think that we're going to need to work together on this.
When I first got into his room, I just saw him and he started sobbing and I started sobbing. I think I was just like, he's not dead. When we were talking to his surgeons, they could not emphasize enough how big of a miracle this was. They're like, we've never seen someone get into an accident with a semi and come out this clean.
The complications from an injury like Tom's not healing can be devastating. They can even mean amputation. I do think for someone like Tom, saving his leg
is his life.
We all made the decision to proceed with the skin flap. They take tissue, nerves, flesh, everything from one leg and move it over. He's opening his eyes for the first time and both of his legs are completely shredded and ripped open. It's disastrous. It's so devastating.
For that week, it was kind of like, man, I don't know, like this could be, he could be down for a while.
When he was conscious enough, he asked, when can I see the team? When can they come visit me? And the first time we took him outside, he just lost it. He just started crying. You get to see all the guys and it kind of reminds you like, oh, this is my life.
What I learned was that the steel that did come through, it stopped right at my femoral artery. So that leads me to a higher purpose. You know, it just wasn't my time, and I believe that. You know, God intervenes sometimes and doesn't intervene in others. Lynn and I lost our son Teague at the age of 5 in 2004. I was heartbroken in 2004, but I never felt the way I felt in this accident. I was in the hospital for 12 nights. So there was a lot of questions in my mind about would I ever be able to walk again or be able to wrestle again. I was struggling with the pain, the discomfort, and the loss of hope.
I felt like a little bit the roles were reversed. I was coaching the coach and giving him a pep talk and be like, hey man, we got this. We're gonna get you through this.
Me and my mom would wipe him down and just make sure he was clean and stuff, and he would just cry. Like, I can't even take a shower on my own. I can't even bathe myself. And I think it forced this silence and solitude. That was very hard for him.
I just couldn't find peace. I felt like I couldn't trust God. And it caused me to spiral into a depression. There were nights when I didn't want to live. I had suicidal thoughts. I was looking at, everything that could possibly cause someone who deeply loved life to not want to live. It made me feel like somewhat of a coward when I had so much to live for, but being open about it helped me get through it. I shared how I felt, which scared my family, but it alerted them to what I was experiencing, which is something I had never experienced before.
I just kept telling him, like, let yourself feel what you need to feel and don't try to shove it down, because this was a tragic accident and it will shape the rest of your life.
My son, Jake, has 2 children, and I started staying at his house at night, and I got to play with the grandkids at night, and it got the focus off of why me, poor me, you're in pain, to these little kids that just want to love on Popo.
Keep weight on his upper body and switch him and pull it to you.
I do believe now I'll be able to wrestle again, and I do believe that.
If his head's up and I'm going to do this, I'm better off. I got to keep weight on him.
He tries to get on the mat, show some things on his feet still. I have to try to, back him off a little bit.
The best way to gain trust is to not come across as you're perfect and have all the answers, but to be someone who's suffered. When you walk through something like this, I have a completely different experience of when my guys get hurt or someone's in pain or like, whoa. But to be back in practice, I'm even more grateful.
I recognized the position and I hit it. I recognized it, I hit it.
Because everything that I loved was almost taken from me.
God has healed things in my dad that he never could have if this didn't happen, and has shown him parts of himself that he didn't know was there. And ultimately, I think it's a miracle story.